Hey guys, welcome back to the Tough Love Podcast with Dr. John O'Connor. Today's podcast is about goal setting and goal getting. And for me, it's, we're going to talk about the fitness show, but what that really was about was setting a goal with my physical, mental, spiritual, and even financial well-being, because I didn't want it to take away from any of those aspects. I wanted to build on it and, 10x every one of those things so that I could translate it into business opportunities, into relationship opportunities, into, future social media opportunities. And I feel I accomplished those. So again, set goals and then get goals. When I started on this, dream, it's funny. I heard a great line by Dan Martell today is, if you don't set a date, it's a dream. If you set a date, then it's a reality. And in June of last year, I had set a date for a couple things, and one was a fitness show. And I knew that I wanted to do one in April because I thought that that'd be a great time to get out there. It was my wife's 50th birthday. There were a lot of different things that were monumental. And, it gave me a great amount of time to get ready. In years past, I wouldn't set a date on something. And if I look back, I didn't get those things done. And, my fear of getting on stage and practicing a routine and physically being able to take the training and the battle and the grueling schedule of work, training different than I ever had before, and staying healthy was something that was a battle. And again, listening to these business coaches that, for me really kind of helped me stay on task and on purpose, it was super important for me to get there. And here we are now. I believe it's April 14th with April 12th behind me. I won the day. I went into my weight or my age bracket. I crushed it. And again, it wasn't necessarily about how I looked physically. It was how well prepared I was. And I think that's something that I go back to my early days as an athlete, and when I was always most impressed by coaches that I had the opportunity to meet at a basketball camp or at a tournament, or my early years as a basketball trainer and my players were getting recruited by elite coaches, was how much emphasis they put on preparation. And, that is what today's podcast is all about. When you work so hard during the preparation process, when it's time to deliver, that's the easy part because you've already done all the work. And I have to say, this journey that led up to Saturday, probably one of the most gratifying parts was how many random messages I got from people from all over the country messaging me on social media or shooting me a text saying, "Hey man, I've been following you and I got to tell you, thank you. It's pushed me to do more in my life and be more focused in what I'm doing." And I think that's what it's all about. I think that for me, it just wasn't about having a six pack and going out there and crushing it. It was about inspiring myself, kind of rekindling that person I used to be. And even better than that, recreating a new person that is going into, the fifth inning of a ninth inning game with the mindset and belief that I'm going to win it. I'm not only going to win it, I'm going to blow out the other team. I'm going to do things that I never thought possible. And it's all because I had a vision, I set a date, and I kept moving along the timeline and getting stuff done. And so again, when we talk about goal setting and goal getting, it's critical, that, what I believe, that you do this all the time. And again, I don't care whether, I made a post the other day, whether you're training for a 5K or a marathon or a half marathon or a fitness competition, High Rocks is a big thing, or even a walk or some type of volunteer event. But setting, listen, for a lot of people, I know they set vacations and then they start going to the gym because they want to look good in their bathing suits or wherever that may be. But setting a date for, that accomplishment zone, I think is critical. I got pulled into a new company that's opening up in the next few days, and it's, it's called Boost. And again, at first it seemed like this idea that was never to come to be. But then when all of a sudden a rent check was sent and a construction invoice was sent and now furniture is being moved and signs are going up and it's open. And, the medical director had this belief and, the person that pulled me in for this opportunity, it's an unbelievable opportunity. And, I look at it now, like if they didn't push that part of me to say, hey, we need it open by this date, I probably would have never realized that to being accomplished. And again, that is the difference between a dream and accomplishing a goal, is setting an end date. And so that's where I really think this podcast should hit you, if you're going to take anything away, is, stop dreaming and start doing, right? There's never a perfect time to start, right? But starting is the best way to give you a chance or give you a shot at making it happen. And if there was ever a time I realized that was this weekend. I, was preparing, going to different gyms. I've been training at Iron. I've been training at Lifetime. I've been training at Powerhouse. A couple of other spots along the way. I went to Bodyworks the other day, and the one thing, it's like I run into people and they're like, "Hey, man, unbelievable progress." And, I look at them and in my head, I'm, obviously I'm just, I'm grateful. I say thank you, but I'm thinking it's, it's discipline, it's commitment, and it's setting a goal and going to get it. And, the one thing I would say looking back this weekend and reflecting on was I still walked away. And again, I really didn't know what I was doing. I had a great coach in Coach Kyle and coaches and Coach Kyle and Patrice and also Rich Tuma, in giving me guidance and leading me throughout the process. But again, I think the difference when you're guiding the young kids that start this in their, their 20s, I think you're probably telling them, right? When you're dealing with a 50-year-old, I believe I was the oldest person in the discussion, they're talking with me, not at me. And, I probably should have let them push me and get outside my comfort zone even more and go into the younger brackets. And, I will definitely do that. I think I was so well prepared and they did such a great job, and I can't thank them enough for the level of expertise, the hard work, the amount of communication, the follow-up, and their level of professionalism. I couldn't have got to where I got without them kind of lighting the path for me to follow. And again, I set the goal and I went and got it, but I did it because I had those path lighters along the way to really show me how to get there. And I think when we look at these different opportunities, again, for me, mine started last summer. It was a changing point in my life. And I had to say, if this is where I'm going to be, I want to be the best version of myself. I want to change a lot of the things about myself that I don't like. And I believe that I did that. And, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for, the fact that, I went out and got a business coach and definitely a no bullshit approach in Andy Elliott, because he's on he's on a whole different level in like daily recreation of yourself every single day. And, and constant editing, constant recreating, like your life is a paragraph, and every day he rewrites the paragraph. And, I think there's something to be said about that. I think that is something about relationships and business and life and friendship and your relationships with your spouses, your friends, your coworkers. Is you treat it like you're trying to win the job, win the date, win the account every single day, I bet you never lose it. But if you treat it like it's always supposed to be there and you start like leaving that out there, I think that that's just like the dream versus a goal, and you set a date to accomplish that goal. You just never get there and it fades away. And so again, for me, this podcast is all about, if I can do it, you can do it, right? If I can go out there and I can step on that stage for a person that, I may come off like, I can do anything, or I'm this big fit guy, again, let me remind you, this podcast started because I totally fell apart. I was 178 pounds. It was COVID. I was layered up under flannels and sweatshirts and vests and hats, and I was a broken person. And it started then with the rebuild process. And what I realized is, just like somebody that's coming back from, a drug dependency, it's one more day. It's every day you have to reset. Every day you have to go over your affirmations. Every day you have to remind yourself why you started, why you're here, what you're doing, and then probably the most important thing that I really have been listening to and hearing more and more from the coaches and mentors of podcasts that I like to resonate with is, once you get to a point where you're getting more comfortable, especially financially, start reaching back, start helping others, start pulling people up and, helping them achieve their goals. Because probably one of the biggest accomplishments you could do in life is not so much see how much money you can accumulate, but the amount of people you help along the way. You'll be amazed that you're going to accomplish all of that financially, but the rewards of helping others goes beyond. So I think, this fitness win this weekend, I feel like there's so many people, as I, spread the message and I kind of tell them how I started, that it's something that's going to help them and inspire them, that, hey, listen, if I can do it when I was laying on a table after getting, 100 plus stem cell shots in my back, felt broken, sat laying in the room I'm in right now on the floor, speaking to, spinal rehab experts, and have a dream. I didn't even feel like I had a chance, let alone a dream back then. And now doing what I'm doing, it just tells me that if you reset, you reprogram, and you recreate, you can accomplish anything. You can do so many things, and that the list is endless of what you can accomplish, but you have to believe. And that starts with, again, setting goals and then going to get them. And, whatever that is, set a date, whether it's, 2 weeks out to get ready for something. Two things have to happen. You got to start, and then you have to set out when you're going to arrive date. And if you do those two things, I bet you that if you start to notice and you write them down and you keep track of it, your attitude, your self-imagery, and your confidence is going to go through the roof, because you're going to hold yourself accountable, and you're going to go into a whole nother mindset that's going to be about I can, I will, and I did, versus I might, I may, and I think so. So at any rate, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. These two podcasts that I created today are all about, let me recreate that. Today's podcast is all about, if you believe you can, you will. And again, getting that mindset is a life-changing shift. And once you can achieve that, sky's the limit. So guys, thank you so much for joining me today. Please share the podcast. Thank you so much again, and I'll see you again soon. Take care.